let's talk about what's not so good about keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, the best move would have been trading him right after they got Trey Lance. You probably could have got a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey would have more experience. Last year was a wild ride, but ultimately it didn't bring in a Lombardi, so who freaking cares? That's my attitude. So he's here now. Jimmy's here, and it's the best of a bad situation, but it's a little awkward. What do you think is not so good about this situation?
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do anything to cause a distraction in any way. He won't say anything wrong. He's not going to do anything wrong. We're not going to be able to say, man, what is Jimmy doing? None of that's going to happen, right?
Because other quarterbacks might. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield melted down after they hinted at Deshaun Watson, and Jimmy Garoppolo had to sit in the box last year and take all that and say whatever you want. He delivered in that way professionally, even if at the end of the year he spoke about, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. That was hard for him, but he did it professionally. And I have no doubt in my mind that Jimmy's going to continue to do that here. Yeah. The only thing I would say is this. It's not going to be the locker room. I think that Kyle has built a strong enough culture there, and I think that's what he's betting on, that this will not tear this locker room apart, that everybody understands. They've had a conversation between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo about where they stand. Trey's our guy. Trey's going to have his leash, and the leash didn't get shorter. I disagree with that sentiment, and if you want me to expand on that, I will. But here's what's not so good about it. You have opened the door for not fans, because who cares? Yeah. Media, right? Media, especially national media. Now national media gets to make segments if Trey Lance struggles for a half or struggles for one game or has a few missed throws to actually come back to this Jimmy Garoppolo thing, because none of them would ever ask for Nate Sudfeld to play. But you got to wonder, they've been talking about how do you move on from Jimmy Garoppolo? He's a winner. Now you've allowed that chatter to grow. Now in the
national media is going to second guess him to death.
To death. And in the media,
would Jimmy Garoppolo have hit this throw? Would Jimmy Garoppolo have seen this? You know, like Jimmy, you know, would he? All that stuff.
And the media room, you know, like let's be frank, people are going to ask questions like that. And people are going to ask George Kittle, hey, what's the dynamic between Trey and Jimmy? Ask Debo, hey, man, do you miss Trey and Jimmy? Like
the questions after games when they lose, hey, Kyle, why didn't Jimmy play? Why did you think Trey gave you the best chance to? Hey, George, would you like Jimmy to be throwing you the ball? Hey, Debo, your numbers are a little down. Don't you miss playing with Jimmy?
So you've opened up that. So I don't think that that's strong enough to fracture anything in the locker room. I don't think that that's strong enough to shake Trey Lance either. I just want to be honest with that. I think that the kid's ready to go. He understands. But one thing that I will ask of Kyle Shanahan, love you, coach, but I don't want to see you get up there and get mad at any Jimmy questions, because you had to weigh this. You had to weigh this when you brought him back. You had to weigh that portion of it, because if you didn't, then that's an oversight. I don't want to see you. I mean, I don't know why you guys keep asking questions about it. No.
If that's how you feel, you should have brought in Andy Dalton or something. You know what I'm saying? Because we wouldn't ask about Andy Dalton.
No. I need Kyle Shanahan to take all those questions in stride, answer them, and answer. And if you have to give the same answer every single time, you have to give the same answer
with a smile on your face.
You had to weigh that when you did this Jimmy Garoppolo thing. You know how you free yourself from the discussion? Don't bring him back. Not that I'm saying that he shouldn't have brought him back, but I don't want to see you getting upset now when these questions are asked, because you've opened that door, and that door's wide open.
Again, you could have traded Jimmy last year, brought in a competent backup who could have just been there, and it wouldn't have been a threat to Trey Lance, and he could have had all this experience, and that's how most teams would develop a young quarterback. You went this way. So there's got to be some type of a fallout. I want to talk real quick about the locker room. I agree with you about the media. He is going to get second guessed to death in the media. But the locker room is complicated because Jimmy, he's the leader still. He was the leader of this team. It's like Derek Jeter going from being the leader to being a backup on the same team. It's awkward. Trent Williams, George Kittle, Debo love him. So Kyle has his own idea of Trey, what the leash should be, and I'm sure Kyle wants Trey to be the quarterback, but let's say they lose week 1. Or let's say they get off to a bad start, and I'm not saying they will. What happens if Debo and Kittle and Trent go to Kyle and be like, you know what? We don't want to lose any more games. We want Jimmy. And Kyle's like, nah, man, that's not – I want to give Trey a little bit. What happens if that – and I'm not saying it will. I think the Niners are going to get off to a hot start. They have a pretty easy schedule right away. But if that happens, that could be a problem because, again, you got – Kittle loves Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm sure he's open-minded to Trey. But what is Kittle's leash? Like, what is Kittle's patience and Debo's patience? Because that matters if they all of a sudden need to stand up and have a talk with Kyle. Those things happen early on in the season if it looks like he's getting away from him. Because I don't think anyone was going to go up to Kyle last year like, we got to have Trey. Maybe because Brandon Ayuk doesn't even talk. I'm just saying there are factions on this team. Ayuk is team Trey. Kittle is team Jimmy. I think they all want to work it out, but if they start off 0-2, God knows, man.
That's a doomsday scenario if all of those guys, if all those guys went to Kyle and they said all those things.
I'm not saying it'll happen. I think they're going to win the first 2 games. I think they're going to look good.
I don't think it'll happen either, but selfishly, because they want to win, would be stunting the growth of this guy that the 49ers, they don't like need him to be productive. They need this pick to hit. They need this to be the franchise quarterback. So 1 year of doing that to him for you to chase a championship while ultimately stunting the growth of the franchise quarterback that you need to hit. You need to hit on this. This isn't second round picking Colin Kaepernick. You know, this is like you took Alex Smith with the first pick. You needed that to hit. Yeah. Didn't happen. Yeah. You moved up for Trey Lance. You need this to hit. Yeah. This can't just be like, he was all right. Yeah, it was all right. He needs to hit.
And they keep talking like, well, it worked with Steve Young and Joe Montana. Brought out the best in him. Those are 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I hate that comparison because these are 2 quarterbacks who right now we would have to call mediocre. Trey's inexperienced. Jimmy's mediocre. Like, both of them are going to make a lot of mistakes. And by having the other one on the team still, it's like, well, Trey would have done better or Jimmy would have done better. It's like, no, they're both mistake-prone guys who Jimmy's, not going to improve. Trey may improve, but like, you're not getting Joe Montana or Steve Young. What you're getting is a quarterback who's getting second-guessed to death. And frankly, it happened to Jimmy last year. And I felt he deserved it because he makes the money and he's 30 and like, you should be more developed than you are. But Trey, I mean, he's going to get it the same way, if not more. And he's 22. And he should be allowed to have fun. Like, if you're developing, you should be allowed to go out there, have fun with the expectation that by year 3, you might be elite. But he might be under so much pressure to not fuck up that I can't throw a pick. And he becomes Alex Smith, which is not what you want.
And, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of the expectations are because of this roster. And I think that's really what it is. It's prime Debo, it's prime Trent, it's prime Kittle. You understand prime Warner. You understand that you have, Chris Sims, for all the things that he said. He ranked the 49ers as the number 1 roster in the league. It's hard to argue 1 through 53. And I know we're going to go through the 53. 1 through 53, that there is a more talented roster top to bottom. There's some guys that got cut from this team. They weren't cut necessarily because they were bad at football. It's because you could only keep 53 players, and that's how stacked they are. So a lot of the expectations and a lot of the things that are going to be thrown at Trey have to do with that. If this was a team that was at 3 because they lost a bunch of games and they were just like, Trey Lance would have all the time in the world. But coming off of an NFC Championship game, and so many people wanted Trey to start last year, including myself. I wanted him to kick off his development. Now it's that more than anything that's adding pressures because this team is looked at as a win now loaded roster.
To me, it feels like if Peyton Manning had, like, if the Colts drafted Peyton Manning but kept Jim Harbaugh, and while Peyton Manning's having that rookie year where he's throwing 22 picks, there's conversation like, should we go back to Harbaugh? Like, no, it's Jim Harbaugh. Who cares what Peyton Manning is doing right now? Like, he could be the best quarterback ever in a couple of years. Go with it. And it's like, if you had Brett Favre or Joe Montana, I understand the hesitancy with Trey Lance. It's freaking Jimmy. It's like Jim Harbaugh. Like, you gotta just understand that having to look over your shoulder at a mediocre quarterback can only hurt your confidence. I'm not better than this guy. Like, they have to keep this. And again, I don't see it as an indictment of Trey, but what does Trey look at it as? I mean, maybe all of Trey's insecurities, he looks at as Jimmy's a physical manifestation of them. Hey, man, if I could only throw the ball a little bit more precise, he wouldn't be there. And who knows? I mean, maybe they say the right things to him, but if I were 22 and I saw this guy looking over my shoulder, it wouldn't make me more confident. It just wouldn't.
I'm going to be the optimistic one and say that I think that Trey is strong enough to overcome this. And I think that
I'm not.
Okay. I can see.
I have no self-esteem, but I'm projecting that on him. Sorry.
I mean, look, he is a handsome guy, man. Like, that's gotta say, like, look, man, I consider myself handsome. My mom does too. But like, if Jimmy Garoppolo walks in the room, I'm not as handsome as that guy. But I think that Trey's good enough to Trey's good enough to go over this. And I think that when Trey throws praise at Jimmy Garoppolo for being a big brother, and I don't think that that's lies. And I think that here's one thing that Jimmy Garoppolo has to do right now. Jimmy Garoppolo this year is auditioning for what his career will be going forward. And what I mean by that is the guy who warms up the seat for the next guy. Yep. If you can't mentor this kid right now and help him, then what would teams be trading for you for? Because you are likely a bridge quarterback for the rest of your career.
Because Alex Smith did that for Colin Kaepernick, and all of a sudden, Alex Smith's stock went up. They were like, look at how good Colin Kaepernick's playing. Alex must have done something. Alex must have said something to him, you know?
And then Alex goes to KC, and he has Mahomes sit behind a year, and guess what? He had to move on. Again, Jimmy
Best
Garoppolo,
quarterback coach in the league, Alex Smith.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to show that, and he is going to be the bridge quarterback for guys who are warming up the seat.
Is it too early to fire Brian Griese and hire Alex Smith? He's so rich. He doesn't want to do that.
I don't think, and also, man, some of those comments that he made towards the end when you were talking about like dysfunctional franchise, I don't think Alex Smith has any desire to
work for Jed
return
again.
Or to run. No. I think that he's if anybody's got PTSD, it's Alex Smith. But I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo has to show organizations, hey, I can mentor your kid without being selfish. I can do everything that I can to put my arm around this guy because you are going to be the ultimate bridge quarterback going forward for every other franchise you play for.
Angel Reyes says, Grant, ask Kyle if Trey will get the same leash as Jimmy if the Niners start 3-5 like last year. So that's the thing. When the Niners started 3-5, I don't feel like there were a bunch of players in the locker room going up to Kyle being like, we got to go to the rookie who's 21 years old because everyone loves Jimmy. Now, if they're even 0-1, if they're losing at halftime of the first game, what is this? What is George going to say? What is Debo going to say? It's different. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing, too, and you were in Chicago. Again, I'll state it for the 100th time. Halftime, Trey Lance comes out, helmets on, warming up. The offense was not clicking at that point. Debo Samuel catches a tunnel screen, takes it to the
third and freaking 20.
Saves Jimmy Garoppolo's job.
If he only gains 18 yards, Trey Lance might have replaced him, but he gains 84.
Yep. Yeah. And completely turns around the season.
But that was all Jimmy on that play.
I mean, you can't.
The way he motivated him in the huddle before the play, he was like, Debo, I believe in you.
You can't quantify that jawline on that play. Like there's no metric for it. But
they locked eyes, time stopped.
Even at 3-5, right there, that was the end of Jimmy's leash too. It was getting there. It was right there. So again, where is the leash? I don't know, but halfway through that Chicago game, it was getting ready to be taken off. So, let's just talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. I think Kyle has the right idea here.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the leaders of the team who think that, I don't know. But again, maybe I'm judging George. George, let's see what you got this year.
Real quick, Grant, too. Like when you asked that question, because I was on the conference call as well, too. Yeah, on the conference call. I was on the call too. I love that they were like, all right, Grant, answer your question. And then he was like, get your Twitter figures ready. And he was like, Brock Purdy made a 50. We all were like, oh, like Brock Purdy made a 53. I was like, damn, is this what like they know it's Grant on the phone and they're just like, all right, Grant, get your question out, man.
I know, and even afterward, Kyle was like, "Oh, I just wanted to take your question because I wanted to mess you up, so you were the last person to tweet it." I was like, "I didn't tweet it at all."
I know.
I'm the guy that doesn't tweet everything.
So like, I'm sitting there on the conference call, and like, I just flipped out right into Twitter. I was like, once he said, he was like, "Let's see who could tweet it fast enough." I was like, "Oh, here we go!" And then he dropped the bomb. That was Brock Purdy. I love it. That's good.
That's the first time he ever used my name ever.
The dynamic between you two is so good, and I can't wait to continue to be on these calls and watch press conferences and things like that to see.
It's a lot of fun because I feel like when I start asking a question, he thinks I'm trying to get him. And I'm not like 90% of the time, but sometimes I am. And he's like on his toes for he's like, okay, all right, you're not messing with me, but you might. I'm like, yeah, I might, man. We're not friends.
Right.
Ryder's daddy says, is backup Jimmy worth the potential circus this causes? Well, that's what we're essentially talking about right now. Stats asked the wrong question. It's not about media fans making noise. See, that's I agree with that. But no, I think it's both. It's freaking both. It's all noise. And it's rough if the locker room basically loses confidence in him. Last week, I asked George Kittle, like, how's this Trey Lance offense going? And he had the whole time he had this like, well, we need some more practice. And he just didn't seem very enthusiastic. And I just wonder,
I would ask a question to this because there's been whispers about the locker room last year with the trade package. The trade package went away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Was that because
they've been doing something for 5 years on offense, and they do it pretty well. Now they're going to do something totally different. If they look like they don't do it well, a lot of people might be like, why are we doing this? Why are we running this? The
locker room probably said, hey, man.
Why are we running the triple option and looking stupid when we can just run outside zone and look good like last 5 years? See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All Niners says, how many games does Trey deserve to prove himself?
He needs the whole year. He needs prove yourself is not quantifiable by games. It's not quantifiable by seasons. And there's never going to be a time where
like quarterback is until he started like 50 games. I mean, frankly.
And it's not going to be a game number that's going to be like, you know what? He proved himself. Like, it's not going to work like that. So it's so strange when I'm not trying to like pile on this question. I'm just saying we will not know what Trey Lance is fully until 3 years. It's not going to be 1 year. It's not going to be 2 years. I think after the third year, if they're patient enough, that's when we'll have a firm grasp of what Trey Lance is.
But I'm not sure they're going to be patient enough. I mean, you could say that Trey's in the greatest situation ever because the coaching staff and the players, but the other edge of that sword is that there's just a ton of pressure and there's no like, oh, well, he can have a year or two. Like with most quarterbacks. Nah, sorry, bud. You got to be good right now, even though you haven't really played much in the last 2-3 years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He might just kill it. Flav says, according to Kyle Shanahan timeline, Kyle said Jimmy was the best quarterback since Young, while also hoping Jimmy would stay. Now, I think he was hoping to get Jimmy to stay when he made those comments, not trade him. What do you think?
I think that goes back to like our questions about the evaluator that Kyle Shanahan is, if Jimmy was the best since Young, because I disagree with that. But I don't know. I think that in the back of his mind, he always wanted Jimmy to stay as a backup quarterback. I think he said so a lot yesterday in the conference call, and he just thought that there was no chance, just the same way I did. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say, but based on his comments yesterday, it sounded like, it got to a point where he was like, man, we have no deals on the table. He has no opportunity. Why don't we just go ask? And he was just like, all right, yeah, you know what? I'll take some money.
Yeah, when it kept being reported that the Niners like were holding out for a day 2 pick or this or that, it's just like, how much do you really want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo if you're asking for way too much? It's like having a garage sale and then putting your guitar out there and asking for $2,000. It's like, you don't really want to sell that. You're not going to get that. You don't want, you're not emotionally ready to part with that guitar yet, even though you put it on your lawn and thought you were. That's the way I looked at it. It's like, you can ask for a 2nd round pick. You're not going to get it. So you don't really want to trade him. That's the way I always looked at it.
I think that right now with this contract and the potential of Jimmy Garoppolo staying on this roster and what they could get has actually kind of upped the ante for the offer, right? Like, and I think that you have a segment on this, so I'll expand on that when we get to it. But yeah, there is a way that they can actually sneakily get more than they ever thought they could, especially on the open market during the season, if things fall their way.
Sounds good. Sean O'Leary says, from a roster talent perspective, I get it, but you're inviting national and local media to play what if all year in what is effectively Trey's rookie year. Too much noise to shut out, talented, smart, and mature, or no. Yeah, I just don't think it's the ideal. If you're saying the ideal way to develop a project quarterback, I don't think it's this. Although I'm open-minded. Maybe I'm wrong. It's easy to second against Kyle because he hasn't done it yet.
Right. And that's the thing is, it is going to be outside noise. I don't necessarily think that the locker room is going to be like that at all in any way. And that's the thing is Kyle is betting on the culture and the locker room and that he's built to block all that out. And I think Trey is smart enough to block it out. And I think that Jimmy is just fine where he's at right now because he's just biding his time. Basically what the 49ers have done is opened up his trade window and made him more attractive with that contract more than anything and how much he's actually going to cost. Hey, really? Sorry, I'm babysitting. Not babysitting, it's my daughter. But yeah, it's less about the national and local media. Like, you have just opened it up so they can just continue to create segments on Undisputed and First Take and all those things. Like, speak for yourself about it. But if you're not prepared for it, then you should have weighed that. That's going to be my thing with Kyle Shanahan. I do not want to see him roll his eyes or give a snarky response to any Jimmy question. You had to know this was going to happen. You had to factor this in when you made this decision.
Right. You can't control the media's narrative. You can't control the questions you asked. You can control your locker room, although I don't think you can. But I mean, there is a little bit of arrogance with Kyle. He thinks he can do anything and sort of control how people are going to perceive it. You can't. I mean, this is a very controversial thing, and some people are going to run with it, and you got to just be steadfast and not roll your eyes. Anyway, Michael, got your donation. Thank you. In terms of your question, we'll see. Anything's possible. Appreciate you. Let's move on. Hold on, one more. Lucky Luis says, think our D-line is better now than last year.
Yes. I do.
Yes, I would think so too.
Javon Kinlaw is going to play. I mean, DJ Jones is not somebody that you can just say, oh, whatever. But I think if Javon Kinlaw plays 17 games, we're looking at a very good line. Keeping Eric Armstead inside. I think the Kerry Hyder edition on the 53 is more about him playing inside. Omenahue, Ebukam have been playing much better at the end of the year. I really do think that they've got something here with this D-line.
Yeah, we'll see. They need to replace Arden Key, but I'm sure they will. He was a key cog down the stretch, but again, I'm sure they will.